Today I have on the bench here in my shop a pretty interesting project. This is an older Conn 6D. It's an 800,000 series Elkhart horn. We've got several things going on here. So this is actually, I teach at a school here in Glendale. I'm a band director, and one of the grandmothers used to play French horn. She got inspired. She said, "Can you fix up my old horn?" I was like, "Bring it in." So I've now had this 6D in my shop. We've got several things going on here. It's just essentially a pretty old crusty horn though. So I just wanted to make a short video series on how I'm fixing this horn up. We've got some stuck slides, we've got broken brace here. We've just got a lot going on. So I'm gonna try to fix this horn up for her. We've got a missing screw. The valves are really stuck here or sticking, right? They're really dirty. So you got a lot going on here. So I just wanted to show you guys the process I take in cleaning up an old horn like this. And so yeah, I'm gonna start by removing everything that will come out easily. All right, so this slide is coming out. This one looks like it's gonna come out. You don't want to yank real hard when you're on an older horn like this with slides that are moving rough here, because you could end up breaking stuff. Of course, could fix that, but you do want to be careful. Don't want to bend anything out of shape. Wiggling back and forth gently like this can cause it to come out. And there we go. Got the slide there. See which of these slides will easily come out. Okay, I'm getting a little bit of movement here. That's stuck. I'm going to call that stuck. Okay, this will come. That's a good sign. Got a pop out of that, so that means that we at least have some valve compression. Yeah, I think we still have good valves in this horn. That's good. That's stuck. And that's stuck. So, lifesaver stuff here called corrosion cracker. Oftentimes this will just fix up a horn right fast with stuck slides. So I'm just gonna put corrosion cracker all over this. Sometimes this works immediately, sometimes it takes a little bit extra work. Just kind of depends on the day. There we go. And while that's taking place, I'm going to go ahead and pop these valves out. Yeah, the first thing I do when I'm cleaning up an old horn is I just take it all the way apart. You want to just inspect it, right? You want to check it out for any issues, and certainly everything's going to get cleaned. I'm even going to take this screw out. You can maybe see it over there in the corner. Right here, I have a new sonic cleaner. Just got it on eBay. It's a cheap one, but it works really well. I'm going to put all these small parts through the sonic cleaner, the larger parts through the so basically body the horn through the chemical bath, because that's what I have. Let's check out this slide, see how it's going. Oh, see, corrosion cracker pulled right out. That one's still stuck. Oh, here comes my number 3. That pulled out. Let's see how this one is. And this one's gonna pull out. There we go. Can I get, okay, we're looking at the number 2 valve slides here are pretty crusty. I'm gonna go ahead and stick corrosion cracker in the B flat side as well. And just let that keep working itself around and in. So basically everything that moves is coming off this horn. So here's the old valve. You've got, it's just some corrosion or it really feels just like old oil buildup, but not too bad. The top bearing is binding up a little bit, but a good solid clean will certainly take care of this. I'm gonna pop off this stop plate. Before I do that though, I'm gonna, the old corks in here, I'm just gonna peel out because we'll definitely be replacing those. We've got some really tight screws here, so you want to be careful. There we go. The stop plate was pretty stuck. There we go. Check on how these slides are doing. Sometimes you do have to be a little bit violent with stuck slides. I can take this metal punch here and just stick it in. Give it some light tapping, and yeah, here it comes. And this light tapping with a smaller rawhide mallet, it's not going to hurt anything, but you really don't want to bang hard. I think that's the thing that'll really hurt. Light tapping with a rawhide mallet, like this one, it's not very large, is not going to hurt anything, but you certainly don't want to tap hard when you're doing that kind of thing, especially like the metal punch like thing. But light tapping, I'm just using my wrist. Just the force of the tap. We'll slowly start moving it out without it banging up the valve itself, or the slide. It's a little tougher, but there it comes, just like that. So there's all the slides, easy peasy. Just need to finish up the valves here. As you can see, right here, we're actually missing a screw. So I'm gonna see, I've got horns from this era actually, and I'll just have to see if I have a screw in the shop here. There we go. And there's our valve cores, our rotors. Okay, so we've got, of course, you've got corrosion and stuff, but really nothing terrible. Just needs to be cleaned up from the crustiness. It's interesting, this horn's been together so long that even these casings, or these stop plates, are like kind of stuck to the horn. And these screws are a bit challenging to get to break free. And there we go, we have all of the movable or easily removable parts off the horn. Now, I'm not going to worry about things that are soldered together in this particular case, right? It's not that kind of job. Plus, I just don't know if the horn's worth, that kind of money, because it'd be very expensive to, unsolder things. You have to resolder them back together. But we have here a pretty good old 6D. That the goal here is that it play again and play decently. We've got a kink in the lead pipe. Not sure there's much I can do about that, at least in this shop. We've got some dents and stuff, but I think what the customer's going to find is they have a good horn when they're done. I'm going to go ahead and address a few issues with the body of the horn. One is this break right here. Okay, and it looks like this has been resoldered and somebody didn't equalize the flux quite correctly. So I'm going to clean this spot up. And it's going to need to be done. I'm going to clean up also this right here. Now, this is an interesting thing that I find on a lot of 6Ds, is that this part, this curve here has a nice dent in it. Not sure why that tends to be, almost like the horn gets hit here from like a student or something, and it pushes up on the entire thing. And so like this slide will get a dent in it. This slide will get a dent in it. That's a pretty significant dent, but it would be extremely challenging to get to from a tech standpoint. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna leave it. The one thing you could do is solder it together, right, and then try to pull out just to erase the dent a little bit. But I don't think that would be super effective, actually, because the horn seems to be under tension, and I think it's gonna play decently for what this customer needs. So I do think I'm gonna leave it. I mean, I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking like I could pull this off and put that out, but then I have to readjust the geometry of the entire horn. And for what this customer needs, I don't think that's the right thing for her. So it just would be very expensive, and the horn's probably not worth that, and it's gonna play fine, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this spot up, resolder this bad solder joint. I think I'm gonna get the old solder out. So I'm gonna set up over there on my soldering bench, and we'll take a look at that. So I'm over here where I do a lot of my soldering dirty work. This does actually double as my photo booth. I just cover it with the black cloth. If you see my website or anything, photos are all taken here, so that's kind of cool. But the way I'm just going to clean up this solder, I'm going to go ahead and heat up the area. The two places we're working are here and here. All right, I've just got it sitting in a Hercules horn stand. I found that works really well. Got my torch, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'll do this area first. Okay, I'm going to heat it up real nice. Okay, you can see smoke starting to rise. That's just stuff inside the horn starting to burn up, just crud. It's okay. Okay. I'm gonna wipe up that solder. One of the things I can do is kind of stick this rag in here, kind of force it through this area when it's hot. And I'm just cleaning out the old solder. If I don't clean out the old solder, it's not going to work very well. Just want to get it nice and warm. Yeah, it's probably going to burn lacquer. It's just part of it. Okay. There we go. Getting a little of that. Okay, yeah, we're starting to clean up pretty nicely. It's good. I'm gonna heat that up, bring the rag back in. There we go. Now, last thing I'll do is I'm gonna just take a little bit of 500 grit sandpaper, tear a strip out. I'm gonna stick it in here as well. All right, and I'm just gonna try to pinch the back end. And just clean that up. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm just cleaning the junk. Okay. Just like that. I'm going to do the same up here. Exact same thing, really. I'm going to get my rag ready so that when it's clear, I can just go right in there. Heat the area up. Okay. See, it's starting to melt. This might be a little more challenging to clean out. One thing I found really handy to have around in my shop is actually old clothespins. They're wooden, they're not going to damage brass, but they can kind of get into the spots and just kind of scrape things out. See that? I'm getting some old solder out. Yeah. There we go. With this one, I might just dump a little more solder in just because of the type of horn this is. If we're working on a high dollar horn, I might do a little more. Let's just get some fresh solder in here. Make it look nice. And what I'm considering doing down here is actually adding a brace. I'm kind of thinking that might be a better thing for this horn. So I've got a parts Conn 8D here. This is an old Abilene 8D that I've been as you can see, I've been ravaging it for parts for many long time here. I'm gonna pull this brace here and just see if I can get it to work into this area. Yeah, it's a silver brace, but actually this entire horn has silver bracing. So I think that's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna go pull this horn off the workbench here, put this one on. This is a moment where needle nose pliers are quite helpful. I can just kind of grab this brace, heat it up. And it'll do its thing. I have to work it out, and then boom, just like that. Got a brace. I'm gonna put this back down, and I'm gonna see if I can slide this brace in. Yes, I can tell this is already better for the horn. I can bring it down here, and you can see that I've put this brace here. I need a little bit of adjusting. I haven't actually soldered it yet. But that's where I'm going to put that brace, and I just think that's going to be a better solution than just like resoldering, you know, just a glob of solder into that crack. So I'm going to go ahead and position this brace correctly and then solder it together. Make sure you guys can have a good vantage point on this process. Okay, so I've got my pliers, and I'm just going to sit it properly. Check both sides. See, the brace is, a lip of the brace is kind of hanging up there. I'm just gonna, it's pretty thin metal. Just gonna gently bend it down. Now I have my rawhide, and I can just gently tap that. There we go. You can see now, like, it's not soldered in, but like that brace is like much better fashioned to its job here. So now, last little thing to do is to heat this area up. Give that a little tap. So I'm going to heat this area up now. Not too much, but some. Okay. Then I'm going to take my flux. I have flux in just a little container like this with a needle. If you're curious, I use Denver flux. And I'm just going to apply flux all the way around, and it's going to go into that crack as much as it needs to. I'll wipe down the excess because I don't want solder just going everywhere. Okay. With solder, just a little bit does it. Go ahead and heat up the area. And melt a tiny bit of solder into both areas. Just like that. And I'll clean up the blobs in a second. Come to this side. Just want to be careful. The reason I didn't really remove lacquer is because it was already removed from before, by the way. Sometimes you'll need to remove a bit of lacquer just to make sure it's metal to metal. Coming in here. Just like that. Okay. So there we go. I can kind of clear out the solder areas just by scraping it with my rawhide mallet. Got a blob of solder here that I can just kind of grab and break off. Not a big deal. And there we go. Like, that's not going anywhere, and it's kind of braced the horn back together. I'm going to go ahead and cool this down and then clean up the area. I want it to look nice. I've got a pretty fine sanding belt here that I'm just going to kind of take to these spots. All right. You really can't get away from sanding if you're going to make it look pretty decent. Just kind of sanding away some of this corrosion. Might come in here with a little bit stronger grit. Now, obviously, there's a limited amount to how much you can actually sand on a horn before you've really taken too much off, but it's pretty thick bell student horn, right? Like, you're not going to be beating too much up. Come in here with the fine grit stuff. And then a buffing wheel. A little bit of red rouge. And there we go. I'm going to clean this up a little bit more later. As you can see, we've got a nice brace there, solid solder joint. You can't even really tell there's solder there. But there is, like I can, it's not going anywhere. Right. Horn's not breaking apart. So pretty solid. This is pretty solid again, right? And this one I kind of just took the cheap route because of that dent and just put solder in there, but looks good. Definitely going to sand off a little bit more inside here and polish it up. I'm just going to do that off camera because it's just challenging to do on camera. So my next step with my 6D is to go ahead and sonic clean the parts. So I've got all the slides here. You can see they're pretty dirty. The valves here. I recently bought this Vever ultrasonic cleaner. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on, the heat on here. It's pretty nice. Like, it's about on eBay, not too expensive, and it does the job. I've put some classic brass in it with a little bit diluted. And I'm just gonna go ahead and stick the valves in. And I'm also gonna do the small parts. And what this little device is it's to hold the small parts in the sonic cleaner. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the valves in and the screws and all into the sonic cleaner here. I'm probably also just do these rods while I'm at it. I'm gonna go ahead and clean all the parts of this horn just because it's so old and crusty, and I have the ability to do so in the sonic cleaner here. I'm gonna go ahead and put them in and then show you the final product. I'm gonna do small parts and the slides. So I've now put all the parts through the sonic cleaner, as well as some of my heavier chemicals where needed. Here's the valves, nice and clean. I can't reiterate enough, valves do not need to be polished. Okay, here's how the slides turned out. I'm really happy with that. The outside of the slides I did lightly clean up. There was still a little bit of crust that I know is gonna You know, keep them from moving in and out cleanly, but as little as possible. Don't want to take any metal off. Of course, the bearing plates are good. I did clean all the screws, so these actually should be really clean little screws. Everything's been dried off as much as possible, as much as needed. Obviously, there's still a little bit of water and stuff, but it's just water because, of course, the chemicals are rinsed off and stuff, so it'll dry. So I've got the horn here. I also cleaned it. Okay, the braces turned out well. Okay, so I installed a brace here. Some of the lacquer's burnt, that just happens, but the brace is installed there. Really happy with that. And then this weld, it's just not as pretty as I would like it to be, I gotta be honest with you, but it's just really challenging to make a weld like this. Really beautiful. Really what we should have here, if this would be properly done, would be to remove the bell, remove this part, push this dent out, reposition the entire horn, and then, you know, and then put a brace there. But really, this horn is not worth that kind of work, so I'm not going to do it. This kind of weld is just going to do. So now it's time to reassemble the horn. I'm going to start here with the valve. In my opinion, one of the most crucial parts of putting a horn back together is actually the valves. These have to be well oiled, well aligned, bumpers put in properly. Everything's just got to be aligned right, you know. And the valve actually has to be made right for all this to be done well as well. So for these valves, these are not super fancy valves. They're just stock old Conn valves, pretty good valves, but don't need anything special. I'm just going to use normal rotor oil. Okay. So I'm going to put some rotor oil on the rotors. Okay, this is how I do it. I'm sure there's ways to do it. So my number 4, I put some bearing oil in the bearing, bottom bearing, rotor oil on the actual rotor, and I'm going to carefully place it in. Check it for play. There's little to no play. That's a really good sign. You don't really want any play in that. Okay. I'm going to find my top bearing. Blow any thing out there that's not good. More bearing oil on the top. Then there's a hash mark on the valve plate and a hash mark on the valve casing. You're supposed to line those up. Going ahead and lining it up. Great, just like that. Take my wood piece, block of wood with a hole screwed, drilled in it. Take that, and grab my rawhide mallet and give it a good whack. Okay, that's going to help set this down evenly. Okay, so it looks like this top plate might not sit all the way in perfectly, so you might need to deal with that challenge. It's not a big deal. Okay. And there we go. And I'm going to do the same for the other valves. And there we go. We've got all the valves put back together. This 4th rotor, I think, is giving a little bit of an issue, and it's actually an issue I can't fix. And that's the top plate here is actually loose. But thankfully, simply putting the valve cap on, I think, is going to help that. And I'm actually just going to put all the valve caps on here while I work on the other side of the horn, and then we're going to take them back off later. And this just helps keep anything, you know, maybe that's on my mat here off the inside of the valves as I work on the underside of the horn, right? So I've got all my stop plates. They're ready to go in. Okay, there we go. I've got all the fresh bumper in all of the rotors. Okay, so now it's time for my stop arms to go back in. Okay, and I did find a spare screw on a parts horn that I have here in the shop. and was able to get that outfitted onto this horn. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead, pop this back together. It's pretty easy. Alright, but as I pop these back on, I am going to, after I pop them on, I am going to do something that's a little bit more complicated, and that's align these valves. So I just put these rubber pieces in to the bottom of the valve, and if you've watched my channel, you've seen me do this before. But these rubber pieces stop, right, the valve bumper. We've got this little post here that comes out that goes back and forth, and it hits the bumper material. Okay, so we've got to trim that bumper material down so that this post you know, stops the valve exactly where the valve needs to be, so that it doesn't restrict airflow when the valve operates properly. The way you know it's done right is you check underneath the valve, move it all the way. It looks like I need to trim both sides of the number 4. Okay. So I take my razor blade, I go in here, slice straight down. You can get these razors cheap at Home Depot. I really like them, and they're versatile. Okay, I've done this long enough to where sometimes I can just make one cut and it's about perfect. Go ahead and check that. And it is, yeah, it's basically perfect. You can see it's rotating and the lines are lining up perfectly with the hash mark. Done to that valve, and I'm going to go ahead and get the rest done here. And there we go. All these valves, they're actually really quick and quiet. I'm impressed with these old valves here. Conn really used to make some solid valves. Last thing to do is put the valve slides back into this horn, and we'll be ready to go. Let's get doing this. And there we go, Conn 6D. Let's go give it a play test. I look messy because I've been working in the shop, so I just figured I'd film this in the garage or where I have my shop. Actually play tested the horn, and there was a pinhole leak in this slide. Luckily I had a 6D slide just sitting. I have parts up there, so I had a 60 slide, slid it in there, cleaned it up, works great. So horn plays great, good high range, it's a good sound. The valves are fast, light, love it. It's a good horn, so I'm excited to get this back to the customer, see what she thinks. Let me go play it for you here.